I told them that if you have a land dispute, you don't go to Shiva and ask him. He doesn't care about your land dispute. He is sitting there to offer you mukti. You go to this Grama Devata and you go and say this, offer whatever his offering, his or her offering, and say that, this dispute is happening. Please resolve it for me. He will solve it for you. So they asked me, what if the other party also goes and does the same thing? I said, see, with Agamic temples and Agamic Paradevatas, Parivara Devatas, we at least have these scriptures from where we can take references from. With Grama Devatas and Kula Devatas, there is no references. The very purpose of creating, or why the Siddhars and Yogis created this Grama Devata and Kula Devata worship, is because it's easy. In Paradevatas, if you are establishing temples through Agamic science, you need enormous resources. First, there should be a king kind of sponsor to build something of that, grandeur and maintenance of it. Even today we are struggling with maintaining these temples, but those days they either had like hundreds of acres from which the revenue was used to maintain the temple. That is finance side. But the acharyas, the priests who had to maintain this, their minimum 4 to 6 times puja has to happen from morning till night. And every month there will be Amavasya, Paurnami, Chaturthis, Ashtamis, Ekadasis. These are all rituals that will happen. And then yearly once Brahmotsavam will happen. These are all very intensive processes. Maintaining Agamic temple is very tough. So the yogis and siddhas of the ancient, Agastya Muni, starting from him, they created the Grama Devatas, which is, the principle is the same. For example, Madan, we call Madan Kula Devata, who comes on horseback. Equivalent in South India, we have this Sarpar Swami or Madan Swami. In South India, you would have seen these huge statues with horse and, sword lifting thing, Ayyanars, Munishwarans. These are all an element of Shiva or Vishnu. They will have their own folk story around it, but they don't need an elaborate structure. Many of the temples would just be a brick or a stone or just a weapon like a sword or a trishul, trident kept. And they don't need 4 times, 6 times puja a day. Weekly once, they decide when they want to do the offering. And maybe yearly once they will do a bali, animal sacrifice. And that's it. And they are much more powerful. When I say powerful, not that the Paradevatas are less powerful, but in the sense of how commoners would experience. They are like walking with you. These gods walk with you, live with you. So they are tangible in that sense. Today with all these movies and everything else, we have gotten distorted, but they show signs of their presence through anklet sounds, jasmine smells, cigar smells. They are as physically tangible as any other human being. And they don't need elaborate pujas and havans to invoke. You just offer a bottle of rum and a cigar and say, you come, he'll come with true devotion. Not that you are bribing him. I tell people in the recent workshop, somebody stood up and said, I told them that if you have a land dispute, you don't go to Shiva and ask him. He doesn't care about your land dispute. He is sitting there to offer you mukti. You go to this Grama Devata and you go and say this, offer whatever his offering, his or her offering, and say that, this dispute is happening. Please resolve it for me. He will solve it for you. So they asked me, what if the other party also goes and does the same thing? I said, the difference being they stand for justice. They cannot be bribed by these things. Of course, there are Dushta Devatas, or the same, there are lower, even in Grama Devatas, there are different levels. You can use certain forces, force them to use it. These are much lower level entities, but they are not permanent. But these Grama Devatas are an amsa or an element or a principle of the Paradevatas, or their folk story is connected to them. And it's very simple. There is no mantras, there is no Brahmin priest doing this. See, in the US, when I do these workshops, one thing immediately the question is, what about caste system there? Why Brahmins don't allow anybody else to go into why the priests don't allow anybody? I tell them, see, for a surgery to be performed, you make that person study for 10 years, another 2-3 years he works as an assistant before being allowed. And even then, he has to sterilize his hands and everything, and he has to go and do it. Similarly, an acharya, that's another documentary that I'm working on. Veda Padashala, they go through that. 7 to 10 years of study goes in for them to become eligible to be able to do the rituals inside a Garbhagraha. Not every Brahmin can go inside. It's not a caste thing. A Brahmin has to be educated in the Veda Padashala and graduate before he can actually go inside and do that. But he cannot come into a Grama Devata and perform the puja. He cannot. Only the person from that community, the Grama Devata community, can go inside and do that, or inside or in that area. So, considering the ratio of the Agamic temple and Grama Devatas, if let's say 10 villages are there, 10 villages will have 10 Grama Devatas, one Agamic temple. So, there is only one priest, Brahmin priest, rest is all 10 different communities, priests. So, who is the majority? So, the narrative that is being pushed here is like that. So, coming to how a Grama Devata functions or what it is. See, how logical, how illogical can we go in this podcast?
Absolutely anything.
Okay. So,
Yeah,
because
there is no limit.
yeah, growing up, I didn't have the necessary vocabulary to explain these things, but now there are so many podcasts happening, people like Rajarishi Nandi and, all these people. The vocabulary they have used is very good. So we can talk. So these are not just, it's like how this is Bhuloka, this is the earthly plane. There are different planes which are existing in parallel. So they say in Satyuga they used to frequent often, but now because of our receptivity and our subtlety getting reduced, they don't interact much often. If you look at ancient scriptures and Puranas, you will see there are even marriages happening between Gandharvas and Manushas. So there are Gandharvas, Yakshas, Ganas, Nagas. Like this, there are so many. Sastas. These are all as real as us. It's just that they are from a different realm. Like Kailash is one place that they say even today there is such traffic happening of some other beings coming and going. So these entities or energy forms can be established in one place, can be invoked in one place. That's how the Grama Devatas are established. The difference between a Grama Devata and a Paradevata from an Agamic temple, let's say there is a Vaidyanatha temple where Vaidiswarar is the presiding deity. You have to go there to the temple to go and create the sankalpa in front of his Garbhagraha, not from your home. But for a Grama Devata, wherever you are, you can create the necessary ambience, make the necessary offerings, and say, Karpa, you have to come, he'll come. So the flexibility and the freedom that these Grama Devatas have, why they have this is because these are simple people. Mostly it's agrarian society, people who are involved in agriculture. For them, the crop has to grow well. He needs to have children. That's the purpose for which the Grama Devatas serve for. So your small disputes and things that you need to be resolved, these things they cater to. These are important for a commoner. He's not seeking liberation or mukti. He's not wanting vidya. He's not wanting, Mahalakshmi to that extent that a king needs. So these things are catered by the Grama Devatas. A healthy life, a fertile life, fertile in terms of having more children and also having a good crop. These things are taken care of by the Grama Devatas. Or in the today's new age people want chakras, right? So in basic terminologies, we can say they cater to the lower three chakras. Basic sustenance, they take care of. You don't go to them and ask for mukti. They will deliver you to the next Paradevatas. So even like in Agamic temple, there is a presiding deity and there are Parivara Devatas. There is a family who is a part of this. I explain in my Know Your Temples videos how if you are inviting the Prime Minister home, he won't come alone. The bodyguards will come, the Home Minister will come, the local minister will come, everybody will come. You didn't invite them, but they'll all come because you just invited the Prime Minister. Similarly, when you establish the presiding Devata, everybody else will come because he or she cannot function without the family of deities, the Parivara Devatas. Because the presiding deity is constantly in a state of giving. He or she is open. That's why you can give. You cannot be closed like this and give, right? You have to be open giving. But at the same time, the openness creates the vulnerability. So that vulnerability has to be protected by the Parivara Devatas and a Kshetrapala. Usually in a Shiva temple is Kalabhairav, or in Vishnu temple it's just a Kshetrapal. These aspects are there in the Grama Devatas also, but in a miniature form. If let's say there is Angala Parameshwari, why I'm taking that example is because I'm working on the documentary of Angala Parameshwari. The Kshetrapala is a Karpar Swami, who's an aspect of Bhairav. So he's there. So the principle is the same. but there is no elaborate structures. There could be just a sword planted there, and during the pujas, the priest will go and do that, acknowledge, invoke him there. So Grama Devatas are instantaneous to deliver. So that's what people need today, because they think that gods have gone to sleep, because we are going on asking, they are not giving. Transaction is not happening. I'm giving so much money, he's not giving. That's their concern. But they don't work like that. But Grama Devatas are right now the whole wave that is being created with Bhairav sadhana, many other sadhanas that are happening. Muruga, Subramanya is being created, a big wave. For me, growing up, Subramanya, for us, my family Devata is Kartikeya, Subramanya of Tiruchendur. So we know Skanda Shashti Kavasam is a beautiful song which talks about the beauty of Subramanya, but also talks about he protecting different parts of my body. Right from the top, they describe each and every part. It's like a kavacha of any other mantra, but sung in colloquial Tamil, so that everybody can relate to it. They are invoking Subramanya to come and protect this whole system as a kavacha. He is a warlord. So he used to exist at some point throughout, till Afghanistan also they are finding these statues of Kartikeya today. But why he was eliminated is because he is a warlord. Even today, Veeravel, Vetrivel means it's like your blood will boil. That's how the slogan itself is. They knew as long as these people had this warlord, you cannot defeat them, because you just have to weaken them. So that's why mostly that was destroyed. Now it's again being brought up in a big way. So he is very much a Grama Devata, but also a part of Paradevata because he is son of Shiva. Kula Devatas in the other category, they are for a particular clan. A grama, a village could have many clans. When I say clans, it's community. Community being, let's say, I am a carpenter, Asari, Vishwakarmas, who build, who would be architects. There could be stapatis. There could be ironsmiths. There could be other people, agriculture, farmers. So each community will have their own Kula Devata, designed to support them in what they are doing. So Vishwakarma will have Mayan, let's say. Mayan is also there in Mahabharata, where he comes and builds the whole city for Indraprastha, right? It's created overnight. Mayan is also in Mexico, in South America. So these are things coming up later. Research is going on. So these communities will have their own Kula Devatas who help them perform their activity. So when we say community, they will have a separate genetic pool. They won't intermarry. Social reasons being, if a daughter-in-law comes from a different community, she will not understand how this community works. So they always, and also this is enrichment of knowledge. Another community of Vishwakarma and this Vishwakarma comes together, then it's an enrichment, sharing of knowledge happens. This is how they kept on specializing over generations.